Sometimes size matters. Sometimes size matters. Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc welcoming you back to the Alley Cat Workshop. I've got a pretty unique one for you today. It's going to take a couple of days to do, but it's going to, this is not something you're going to see on every YouTube channel for sure. This is a tank round, the shell of a tank round rather. It's not a live tank round, don't worry. It's not like I'm going to start World War III here in my shop. But this has been converted into a trophy called Sabo, and it is supposed to be presented to the best trooper of my former regiment, the Royal Canadian Hussars, on an annual basis. And the tradition hasn't been kept up very well because there's significant gaps in terms of its awarding. Now, that's not the problem I'm going to address today. The problem I'm going to address is this guy right here. At the very top of the round is this rinky-dink, complete crap topping made of wood, God knows what, probably pine, but it is poorly shaped, probably cut with a jigsaw, barely sanded, not rounded over, nothing like that, and it doesn't look anything like what should actually be on the top of this round. So my goal is to build two prototypes. I've got birch here and I've got ash here. What I will do is I will build a couple of blanks, and once everything is dried up, I'm going to go to the lathe and turn something. What is it going to look like? Let me take the camera in my hand and let me show you what I mean. All right, I found these plans on the internet, and since they're from the internet, then they must be real. By the way, the tank round that I've got, this guy right here, is from a Leopard C1A1 tank. It is a 105 millimeter tank shell, and this was for what we call an APFSDS round, or Armored Piercing Fin Stabilized Discarding Sabo. So let me describe what this is. Over here you have actually a pictorial of the actual unit or projectile that gets sent out. This is an armor piercing round which has fins at the back, hence the name fin stabilized. Once it is inside of the casing, it looks like this. There's an added part. It's actually three parts that get scrunched together, and that's called a sabo. So once the round is ejected from the tank, the sabo ejects, just basically leaves, and all the kinetic energy is transferred over to the projectile, and that thing travels at about a mile a second. When it hits a target, it's not good news. All right, so what does this look like in the round? So you've got the shell casing here, which is supposed to be 616 millimeters, and I've measured the tank round that I've got here, and I'm pretty much bang on. And then you've got the rest over here, which is 384 millimeters, which means that the entire round is a full 1 meter long, exactly 1 meter long. So my goal is to build something like this, minus the fins, but just something that's going to enter and be solid inside of the tank round, but reproduce the top part in a very realistic fashion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this a very shiny black, and maybe paint the tip yellow so that we've got a bit of a distinction. We'll see about that. But in the end, it's going to look something like this, and that trophy is going to look 1,000% better than what it does look today. So for those of you that are familiar with my channel, you know that I like to mill my own lumber, so I cut it to rough length. I clean up a face using my jointer, and then I establish a square end using my jointer again. Then it's off to the planer to clean up the other face of the board. And then finally up to the table saw so I can rip it to final width. With that, I'm ready for the next steps. This is where the saying, measure twice, cut once, really bites me in the butt. So I had a piece of ash, a piece of birch, and I cut them too long. So I ended up with a blank that's just not thick enough, so I have to combine both blanks. So I have 4 pieces of birch, 2 pieces of ash that I'm going to glue up together. I'm going to be turning this, and this is a pretty heavy blank, so I want this glue to be all over the place and really well set, and you name it. And when it squeezes and when it touches and when it glues up, I want it to do miracles. All right, and now for the miracle of clamping. Use my favorite types of clamps, pipe clamps. All right, let's let this cook overnight. And if we're lucky, tomorrow we have a decent blank and we can do some turning. And hopefully this works. All right, see you tomorrow. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're a day after. My blank is properly set. What I'm noticing is that this thing has got quite a bit of weight. So I'm a little bit concerned. I've got a MIDI lathe, so it's got so much power, which is not much. I'm a little bit concerned as to the size of blank that I can put on this. So what I've done is I've found the center, using my center finder, punched a hole where it was, used the protractor, and I found a circle for what this blank is going to look like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock off some of the corners so I can remove some of the weight of this blank. I'll knock the corners on all 4, and then we'll go to the lathe and turn this into round. All right, let's bring the beast over. It's certainly a lot lighter than it was before. It's gonna be long. Thank God I got an extended bed. All right, let's take it down a notch, see how it goes. Okay, fair bit of vibration. I think I'm going to put it on a lower belt. Just put it on the slower belt, not the lower belt, but the slower one. Let's see what we can get here. Still a fair bit of vibration. It's about just under 700 turns per minute. And I think that's going to be it. All right, I will sharpen my gouge, my roughing gouge, and we'll get to work. This is going to take a while. Yep, oh boys, this is going to take a long time. But we'll get there. All right, I'll put this into round and I'll see you later. I'll see you right after that. All right, the blank is pretty round. And I'm in the process of putting a tenon. Tenon on the end, because I want to put this inside of my chucks just to give it more stability and more control. All right, let me just double check the size of this guy. All right, slightly smaller, but we're getting there. So this is what I came up with, and one thing I noticed is I should have drawn the drawing the other way. So I should have had it this way, and I think I'll use it that way, although I'll have to read the measurements upside down. So this thing is going to total pretty much 38 and a half centimeters. Now, the official measurement is 38.4. Guess what? Close enough for government work. All right. Both the sabo part, sorry, this thing is moving here. The sabo part, so this part here and this part here are going to be exactly 105 millimeters. And what's going to go inside of the casing is starting at 84 millimeters and tapering very slightly so that it kind of fits in and slides in nicely. In the middle of the sabo is going to be halfway, half size. It's going to start around 5 centimeters from the edge. The sabo part, like this part, is going to be a centimeter and a half wide. 6 centimeters in, 6 centimeters in on this side. Then it's coming down to half the distance, so 52 and a half millimeters. The projectile part, the part at the front, is going to be 25 millimeters, just slightly under an inch. It's going to go, the long part is going to go for 10 centimeters, and then the pointy end is going to go for 9. What's not shown on this plan is that I'm going to have to dig in. There's going to be a bit of a in curve on the sabo part, and I'll deal with that much later. So let's start on getting the projectile part done. Got lots of stuff to take out here, so let's get going. So after laying out all the key lines on the blank as to where all the transition points were going to be, I focused on the projectile part. So I started by using my parting tool and turning it down to the rough diameter that I had set. And once the rough diameter was set in a couple of places, then I started taking a lot of the material off. And if I had a mulligan, what I would do is I would build the projectile part separately from the sabo and just use mortise and tenon joinery just to join it together. But in the end, got it done. But like I said, it took an awful lot of time and it was unfortunately a whole lot of material to take off all at once. All right, well, that took an eternity. It is roughly done. Lots of tool marks. I'm not too worried about them because I'll clean that up much later. But it's roughly cut out. I'm going to stop here and come back in a couple of days when I got more time and I'm feeling a little bit. It's not that I'm feeling bad, but it's just I'm tired right now. Okay, gang. See you in a couple. So when I got back to the shop, the next step was to take care of the sabo part. Again, same technique, use a parting tool to go down to the rough diameter and start putting things, just establishing the right depth. However, something happened. This was my greatest fear. My greatest fear was that one of these laminated pieces would take off, explode, you name it, whatever, and it's happened. somehow what's strange is the amount of, I don't feel a whole lot of glue, which is strange because I put a ton of glue when I put these pieces together. So I'm going to re-glue this. Thank God I can align things pretty well, that's not the problem. But I'm going to put a ton of glue back on this guy and let it sit overnight. I won't have a choice. I'm going to take my time with this and let this sit so that it takes shape, and hopefully I can recover from this sort of disaster. We'll see. Alright, I will speak to you guys in I guess in a couple of days. Well, let's give this one another shot. I re-glued, let's open the jaws here, I re-glued the piece that had flown off, not just fallen off, but flown off. And let it sit there overnight. Kind of looks good. The looks like it's a solid fit. Now it's just a question: will it hold? And will it hold safely? So let me sharpen my tools a little bit, and let's get started again on finishing this piece. This was the toughest part of the turning, just turning the end grain, and I got a lot of catches here. So in the end, the best way to get this done was to use pull cuts, and that worked out really quite well. I'm at the point I really like how this is turning out. My cuts are quite nice. It's going to require some sanding because, you know, end grain is end grain, but it's actually holding out quite well, and you can certainly see. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but you know, I can certainly feel a bit of a cove in here. So that's quite nice. I don't know in real life how far this goes, how deep this groove goes. It's not documented anywhere. But what I'm going to assume is that I'm actually pretty close, and I'm going to stop it there and just focus on turning the rest. Now. after a little bit of trial and error, I've got this thing fitted. It is nice and snug. Right, so it sits in there properly. Obviously, this is not going to be there. What's left to do is to finish the stem of the projectile. This has to be a point. This has to be smoothed out a little bit. I'm really happy with the sabot itself. That looks really good. Quite a bit of sanding and then some finish. It's looking really well. It's looking really good. Certainly a lot better than the original rinky-dink top. My God, this thing is embarrassing. Can't believe we had this for so long. Jesus. Much better. About to remove that big block that's near the tip, and you'll notice that at this point I've added my steady rest onto my lathe, and that's just to give it a whole lot more stability. Now after all these steps, I'm getting close to the end of the turning here, so after all these steps what I ended up doing is doing a lot of sanding, and I didn't take any footage of this, but I put 4 coats of black very high gloss paint. And this thing looked really, really cool. I didn't do the yellow tip in the end. Decided not to do that. And I finished the trophy just in time. It was awarded to the top trooper of the year. So if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Do subscribe if you haven't done so. Give me a like. Leave me a comment. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.